So Anuti, over to you. I would like you to introduce yourself briefly and tell us about a few things, because I have some questions for you. So first you introduce yourself, then I will ask you a couple of questions.
Sure. Thank you, Tanuja. Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to be here on this forum with such eminent people in such august company. And, it's always been a dream ever since this International Yoga Day was launched for me to actually correlate the aspect of food with fitness and take it to an international audience. So you really actually made my dream come true. And, I'm here. I'm going to present a little bit about the seasonality of spices in Indian food. Because as we all know, Indian gastronomy is really the heart of Indian gastronomy is spicing. That is something that everyone the world over recognizes. And when you talk to anyone globally about Indian food, the first thing that they will say is, oh, it's spicy. Oh, it's hot. It's not hot. It's not chili. Indian food definitely has spices, but spices are used in a particular way that is rooted in Ayurveda. And, of course, Dr. Vele is going to speak more about that. But, I've been working quite a lot on this whole concept of using spices according to seasons, because, one of the tenets of Ayurveda, of course, Ayurveda, as we all know, is this whole science of food as well as medicine. So it looks at every ingredient, every food that we eat in a medicinal way as well. What is good for our body? When should we eat it? What is our intrinsic disposition and how to balance it, with what we are eating. So seasonality as a concept is very, very important in Indian gastronomy, as well as in the way we use spices. And that is what I'm hoping to bring to the table, so to speak.
It's a great pleasure for me to be here, and thank you for the invitation. So again, my name is Balázs Varga. I'm a vegan nutrition expert in this country, in Hungary. I think it's important to point out that every athlete has the opportunity to go beyond animal proteins and try something new. I feel committed to passing on all the knowledge I have acquired over the years to a new generation to create a better world for ourselves, others, and our environment. My main goal is to help people transition to a plant-based diet. My target audience is mostly athletes, those who want to lose weight, and those who have a chronic illness. A little bit about myself. I've not eaten animal food since 2014. The determination was wide awake. I pay serious attention to nutrition, what I eat and what I drink. For me, the plant-based nutrition is not a trend or a new way of something. I feel the positive physiological effects. So this confirmed that lifestyle change was a good decision for me. This interest in health science was already very strong at the time. So I specialize in helping others on scientific basis, as you mentioned. Therefore, it's important that I write professional articles, blog articles, or help others along principles that are also supported in the academic way. Fortunately, today, a tremendous amount of literature supports the benefits of the plant-based diet. So I'm very happy. So today I want to talk a little bit about the 3 most common myths about why someone hasn't switched or tried the plant-based diet. So if it's okay, I will tell about the 3 main myths why the people don't want to switch or try the plant-based diet. or maybe if you have other question before, we can talk about, but I can continue.
Sure, you can continue.
All right. So the number one myth, you know, the protein. Everyone knows the protein, the main reason why someone don't want to switch to the plant-based diet, mostly in Hungary as well. So yes, protein, people are very slowly, but very slowly beginning to understand that's not just protein found in animal foods, hopefully. This is a very good news. But however, the fear of low protein intake is still present in the minds. That's still present, mainly in Hungary. But finally, it would be good to understand that it's very difficult to be protein deficient. So with proper calorie intake, it's almost impossible because our body constantly breaks down the protein we consume into amino acids and mixes it the way our bodies need it. So the newest research published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition shows that both plant protein and animal protein perform equally well. So because plant proteins do not carry harmful baggage with them in the form of ingredients, they are much more favorable source of protein for the human body. A published study found that plant protein and plant-derived dietary protein build muscle in the same way as protein from meat sources. So this is a great news, which based on very well written academic paper. However, meat also comes with other components that are harmful to our health, including, for example, antibiotics, hormones, saturated fats, trans fats, endotoxins, cholesterol, or Neo5-GC. But how could the field of nutrition get it so spectacular wrong? I would like to say a famous editor about the professional started with these words. This is a phrase from a very famous nutritionist and scientist. The dispassionate objectivity of scientists is a myth. The scientist is simply involved in the single-minded pursuit of truth. He or she is also engaged in the passionate pursuit of research grants and professional success. Nutritionists may wish to attack malnutrition, but they also wish to earn their living in ways they find well suited. So for the first myth, key takeaway: protein is everywhere in foods, so they have to try a plant-based diet. The myth number two, which is highly missed in Hungary, oh my God, so really highly, you know, the carbohydrate and insulin resistance. You know, the common myth, oh my God, I'm getting fat and sick from carbohydrates, so I don't want to eat fruits and whole grains. So I usually hear these words very often. So, you know, in Hungary, the low carb movement will slowly have a history, really. So it's impossible. So I see it as a huge problem. In my opinion, one of the biggest public health problems is that almost anyone can say anything on the internet, but really, so in Hungary, it's very typical. So ketogenic and low carb ambassadors are able to say anything in a completely unscientific way, but the saddest thing is that they are followed by tens of thousands. So repeat something enough and it will be true. But because we say something many times, it will not be true if it's scientifically refutable. So, you know, so there is a misconception around carbohydrates that carbs are fattening and cause insulin resistance. One thing is true, okay, ultra-processed carbs are not healthy. You know, everyone knows that. But however, there is no problem with complex carbs. You know, fat in the bloodstream can build up inside the muscle cells, create toxic fatty breakdown products, and free radicals that can block the signaling pathway process. So no matter how much insulin we have in our blood, it's not able to open the glucose gates, glucose transports, and blood sugar levels build up in the blood. So this mechanism by which fat, especially specifically saturated fat, induces insulin resistance wasn't known until fancy, MRI techniques were developed to see what was happening inside people's muscle cells. And that's how scientists found that elevation of the fat levels in the blood causes insulin resistance by inhibition of glucose transport into the muscles. So number two key takeaway, eat complex carbs and avoid saturated fats as you can. Saturated fats mainly found in, animal products, animal foods. Okay, you can find saturated fats in plant food as well, but the saturated fats mainly are in the animal foods. Okay, the myth number 3, the fructose. Fructose is a same situation in Hungary, like carbohydrates, carbs, and protein. I'm often asked whether or not it's good to eat large amounts of fruit on a daily basis. This is a typical question. This is because many people believe that fructose is unhealthy in the long run, causes diabetes, and like all other sugars, it leads to obesity. There is a research where fructose, especially high fructose corn syrup, has been considered an alcoholic substance for liver damage. But what about fructose in natural form, fruits, whole fruits? Well, very interesting, because the opposite, something happens. Studies have shown that only fructose generated during industrial processing was clearly associated with declining liver function, and not fructose eating during whole fruit consumption. This is a very, very important statement.
About millets, one of the class of foods which Ayurveda has identified, especially for diabetic people and obesity, people suffering from obesity, people suffering from insomnia. So that's another area. Today, Tanuja ji, I chose a very least talked topic. Very interesting and yummy.
So we had, I will just quickly tell you the list so that those who have missed the names, it will be reminded to them. So first one was Healthy Breakfast by Ipshita Laha. Second one was a mango rasam, which was a drink, come soup, come, something like a, for all the Hungarians, you can eat it with rice also. It's extremely, interesting to taste. That was mango rasam by Suhaneshwari Chinraj. The third one was Easy Roasted Tofu Curry by Adele Hodonizki. Fourth one was by Rati Gaur. It was a curd paneer. Paneer means cottage cheese. So she tried to create the cottage cheese out of curd. So that was one quick but interesting recipe. The fifth and sixth was sweet dishes. We always end with sweet dishes. So fifth and sixth were sweet dishes. One was cashew fig sugarless dessert. So I think Balash Virag is going to give highest marks to this because it is vegan and sugarless. So Najrana Mansoori, that was her name, but of course you can write the recipe also. Cashew fig sugarless dessert. And the last one was by Mridula Dongre, who made energy laddus. Now laddu, everybody knows here who has tasted Indian food, and all the Indians, they would know laddu is the most famous sweet of India. So for whether it is temples or whether it is baby's birthday or whether it is somebody's wedding anniversary, laddu is something which is served, and she has made energy laddus. So we saw what all, was being put in those laddus. So these were the recipes. So please just mark, give your comments in the chat box. Try to give it in a private manner, whichever you like best, first and second. And then we will tell them. There were lot of recipes, but a few, in fact, wanted to share right now also. But looking at the duration, I panicked and I said that we will see. If we have time, we will probably ask one or two people who have their recipes at the last minute. They can share it later. But now is the time to go back to our ancient traditions. So now I will invite Dr. Asmita Vele. Before Asmita ji starts talking, I will tell you that I have kept something very interesting for the last. So the last is Pallavi Upadhyay, who is not only going to, actually she will talk less, but she will cook. She's going to give a demonstration of something she excels in and something she's been promoting, and she will talk about it. But probably Asmita ji will also promote that, and that is the ancient part of India where we eat lots of millets. So Asmita ji, I will invite you now. She's Dr. Asmita Vele. She has a very heavy CV. I don't think I should read the very, very heavy elements because all of us will faint and we will really will not be in a shape to eat our dinner. But I must tell you that she is an extremely experienced professor of Ayurveda. She has studied Ayurveda medicine, the ancient philosophy, and she was here in Hungary for 3 years. She was the head of the Ayurveda chair, and she was also the honorary, of course, professor at the University of Debrecen. And for 3 years, she not only taught students about Ayurveda, but she also did a lot of collaborations with a lot of different departments in all over Hungary in different universities. She presented a lot of lectures, and she created some interesting, I think, unique medicines also, if I'm not wrong. So here she collaborated with the professors and doctors, and she also created some interesting medicines. So I would now invite Dr. Vele to please tell us about the rich ancient tradition of Ayurveda, the knowledge of life. So we need to know about that, the science of life. We need to know about that. Why in India, thousands of years ago, the ancients thought about something which is the backbone of what we eat and how we live.
Yes, thank you, Tanuja ji, for a very flattering introduction. And I feel fortunate to share the screen with Anuti, Pallavi, Balash, and even Vadnya, and of course you. So I was a part of Embassy for 3 years, and every time when you invite me and I talk, I get that feeling back that, oh yes, I am here. Namaste everyone, and Yuna Podkivanuk. I hope that it's still time to real evening in Hungary. Okay, so it was really good to hear from an outsider like Anuti about the importance of seasons and their combination to use spices. Similarly, how deeply the 6 tastes, she mentioned 5, but there are 6 tastes which Ayurveda talks about. The importance of these 6 tastes and the combinations of foods which go along together was, that was the taste of Ayurveda. Actually, when I was hearing to Anuti, I really felt that yes, this is a deep-rooted medical culture of India, where the wise sages, they have tried carefully to imbibe in every common man's diet most important things which they should have every day to replenish whatever has been lost. She also mentioned about the constitution. So every individual has a particular constitution. The body physique is different. So similarly, psyche is also different. And there are many combinations of different body physics and psyche, which have been narrowed down to certain gross types. We call it 7 types of constitutions, physical constitutions, and equally 7 to 14 types of psychological constitutions. And then there are, and everyone is a combination of these 2. So you can think of a variety of human beings, and we put them into sets, and each individual needs different type of diet. Each individual is happy with different food items. Each individual has different requirement, different quantity of food and water, and each individual is very comfortable in a particular season with a particular food. So when a Vaidya, a traditionally trained Ayurvedic Vaidya, examines his patient, he looks at the patient and not at the disease. And he wants to understand the constitution of the patient, his likes, his dislikes, the foods which are compatible for him, the foods which he doesn't relish, he does not like at all, the timings of breakfast, lunch, and dinner, which the person prefers. And then, after knowing the person in about first 20 minutes, Ayurvedic Vaidya starts identifying the imbalance, because Ayurveda thinks that balance of everything is at the core. So for one individual, the balance of his or her body components, the balance of psyche, his tuning with the nature, everything counts and everything takes part in the well-being as well as in the disease process. So when I see a patient of rheumatism, when I see a patient suffering from heart disease, when I see a patient suffering from corona now, or I see a patient suffering from any psychological illness, first we look at the patient and then we look at the disease. So why do we do this? Why do we believe that food is the most important part? Because you are what you eat, and that Ayurvedic science has very precisely understood. The Ayurvedic science has identified all the food groups, cereals, pulses, milk, and other categories. I know Balash is here and he is going to ask me about, what do you do with the milk, and then there is animal protein, and there is alcohol. There are different varieties of vegetables, leafy vegetables, fruity vegetables, lots of fruits, dry fruits, all the oil class, different types of oils, sesame oil, coconut oil, groundnut oil, lots of oils are there. We have also identified different seeds to be included in the food. All of it is associated with the season. And I know that in cereals, last time I was fortunate to share the screen with Pallavi, and I know how amazingly she talks about millets, one of the class of foods which Ayurveda has identified, especially for diabetic people and obesity, people suffering from obesity, people suffering from insomnia. So that's another area. Today, Tanuja ji, I chose a very least talked topic, and that's of water. When we are combining yoga and Ayurveda, we know that the yogic lifestyle demands certain self-imposed rules and regulations on the eating habits of a person. So if I want to travel the path of knowledge, I want to travel the path of salvation from this cycle of life and death, there are certain guided steps. And coming from the land of gods, coming from the land of Buddha, where salvation has the topmost achievement of human life, we need to understand the role of water. Because ultimately, human being, it's the truth that human being borns out of water. In the mother's womb, whatever nutrition he gets is through that water. Amniotic fluid, it's known. How many nutrients are there in amniotic fluid, and why mother's diet is utmost important to give full-fledged nourishment to the unborn child has come out in a different way today. Under the title Fetal Origin of Adult Diseases, FOAD, FOAD. Now, scientists are concentrating on the intrauterine life of the unborn child for the diseases that we treat and we face in the society in the adult age, like diabetes, like obesity, like cardiovascular diseases, even Alzheimer's, dementias, various psychological conditions. So every child comes out of the womb floating in water, through which it gets nourishment. And in the end, lastly, a person finally drinks 2 sips of water during his last gasping breath. So that's why water is very, very important. What Ayurveda says is, every individual has liquid in its body, and the amount of that liquid is measured with his own 2 palms. So you have to hold your 2 palms like this. You have 8 of this palm full blood. You have 4 of these palm full urine. You have tissue liquids, cellular liquids, again 6 palm full. So calculate all that liquid. 80%, we know that 80% of our body is liquid. So you have to keep that liquid flow going. And Ayurveda talks about liquid mechanism. That is Udaka Vaha Srotasa. Udaka, liquid. It's another synonym is Jivan. Jivan means life. So Udaka Vaha Srotas. Srotas is channel. So we all are aware about our gastrointestinal system. We all are aware about circulatory system, which is mainly comprising of blood and lymphatic system. Similarly, Ayurveda talks about a completely different system that's called the water system. of the body. And here we need to concentrate on the amount of water. It's not that nowadays there is a myth that everyone should drink 2 liters to 3 liters of water. Water replenishes, you drink water and your skin is glowing, lustrous, and all of that. But guys, wait. Ayurveda tells you should drink only that much water, or all the liquids, tea, coffee, milk, your juices, whatever you are drinking, you should drink only that is required to your body. Now, while giving this guideline, does Ayurveda say how to understand your need of liquid? Yes. You should be thirsty, then only you drink. Just don't wake up and start drinking, water. There is a concept called Ushapana. So that is again another theory of naturopathy, which is very widely practiced these days, that you wake up and then you first drink 1 liter, 2 liter liquid and then start your day, so that you flush all the toxins from the body which have been accumulated overnight. This is one theory. But Ayurveda says that theory can be applicable for people for whom it is necessary. Yes, there are individuals where Ayurvedic Vaidyas also talk about, advise them to do Ushappan. But there are patients where we advise, specifically in diabetes, there is impairment of this water circulation system, and we tell patients that please do not drink more water. Your muscles will get flaccid. There is a flaccidity. There is looseness of muscles. You go to urination a lot of times, as it is, it's a cardinal sign of diabetes. So you have to control your water intake. Drink only when you are thirsty. In about a week's time, you will realize how much liquid you can drink for your each thirst. So I feel thirsty during my meal. I need to drink something. In my meal, I generally take buttermilk. So how much should I drink? 300 ml? 400 ml? No. You take first only 100 ml. See if that sip is sufficient to curb your thirst. Keep it down. Again, after 5 minutes eating some boluses, you feel like you want to have little water, you can drink again. So that's how you can understand your thirst in a week's time, and then drink only that much you are required to. In the yogic way of life, yogis start to refrain from having cooked foods. That's the beginning. First, they start to, avoid certain higher tastes. So lots of spicy food, then the meats, then too much of sweets. Like in India, the sweets are generally made out of milk and added sugars, that is carbs, the complex, not the complex, the simple sugars. So all of that they curb first. They turn to light, simple foods, simple complex carbohydrates, but simply prepared. Then they go towards more and more uncooked raw foods, like fruits mainly, and fruity vegetables like cucumber, carrots. Then, because by this time they start avoiding all the cooked and processed and preserved foods. They go to the roots, carrots, beetroots, and the tomatoes and some fruity foods like that, and waters. And in the end, they just eat and drink water, maximum water, and 1 or 2 roots a day is a real yogic diet till the time the yogi reaches salvation. Now, those who want to go to that level, this is the way. But that gave me this impetus to talk about the liquids and basically water in Ayurveda. There are many myths. I'm going to again talk about 2 or 3 myths here. First myth I cleared, how much water or liquids I should drink. So tea, coffee, sharbats, juices, normal water, all that you should drink till you are thirst. And generally, by your own 2 palm full, it generally never goes beyond 8 to 10. So you can count and you start following that. That's the first myth. The second myth is whether I should drink during my meals or not. Ayurveda gives you a simple guideline. When you are eating your food, it needs to be moved properly in your stomach first. And that churning this way or this way needs water content. So you can either take soups, you can take buttermilk, or you can take plain water, or there are curries and things. So those should be 1 part, and solid food should be 2 parts of your stomach. You have to consider 4 parts of your stomach. Your hunger, you should be able to divide into 4 parts. Out of that, 2 parts solid, 1 part liquid, and the last 1 part you have to keep empty. Give way to the churning and this thing. And that way, you won't eat more than what your body needs. And you will automatically, it will help you to remain slim. That's the second myth, that whether you should take water. Either you can drink water or you can have any kind of liquid during your meals. The third myth is about after water, after food, when should I drink water? Generally, and in Ayurvedic guideline, the end of your food should be with small amount of 50 to 100 ml of buttermilk. So no need to drink water in the end. You can have water after 2 hours, because generally by the time of 2 hours, the whole churning process in the stomach of any constitution person is almost complete. So taking your constitution into consideration, after 2 hours, 3 hours, or 4 hours, you can have a glass full of water till your thirst suffices. So I think I have talked about water. Probably many people might find it useful. And if you have any questions, Tanuja or anybody can ask me.
Thank you so much, Asmita ji. In fact, you have focused on something that is actually very, very essential in our diet. And mostly people, they take their liquids and water quite lightly, particularly in the last, I would say 25, 30 years, because of so much of processed liquid diet going around in the market. So people are getting used to having aerated drinks. People are having used to those Tetra Pak drinks and all that. But pure, simple water gets ignored. Yes. So I think your suggestions were very, very relevant. And thank you once again for being here and opening our eyes. For example, I was always under this pressure that while I'm eating, I should not have water. And I really enjoy having a little bit of sips of water. And today you have given me encouragement to, at least according to Ayurveda, it is correct. We will open for questions a little later, but I would like to now invite Pallavi Upadhyay. Now, Pallavi Upadhyay is the proprietor and the brainchild behind a very, very interesting concept called Millets for Health. In India, you have nearly 7 to 8 types of millets, which have been extremely, you can say, popular in the ancient times. Gradually, of course, it went out of fashion, if I may say so. Pallavi Upadhyay, I would like to invite you now. Pallavi is not only going to talk about it, or probably I will ask her a few questions that will make it more interactive. And of course, she will also give a quick demonstration of one of her famous recipes that she has also cooked for one of my TV shows back home in India. So she will be cooking something, and while cooking, she will also tell us about that. So Pallavi is a health food enthusiast. She's a co-founder of Millets for Health. It's a social enterprise working on the revival of millets. So she's reviving this concept of millets, which is still found somewhere in India, the ancient villages. I mean, all the villages, you will still find it. So this is the ancient super food of India, actually. And she will tell us how. And now she will talk about also the health benefits of it, how easy it is to cook actually in some modern recipes. Actually, people think that millets means something very ancient and made in some coal stove, but actually it is not. She will tell us how it is very, very nutritious and also easy to make and very tasty. Pallavi Upadhyay, over to you.
Thank you so much, Tanuja, and for such a glowing introduction. And thank you so much for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to be invited by you and to speak at events and work together with you. And it was really wonderful to hear everyone else who has spoken before. Anuti, I mean, your insights were fabulous. Balazs, it was very interesting to see things from the vegan movement from a Hungarian perspective. And of course, Dr. Vele, your session was really illuminating. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I might ask Tanuja for a recording later because I want to go back and really note down some of the points. So talking about me, I am the co-founder of Millets for Health, as Tanuja has mentioned. Rajiv and I, we started Millets for Health in 2016. So this is in early 2016. And before that, we had been consuming millets and working on millets for a few years before we actually realized that it needed to be commercially brought to the market and talked about. Millets for Health is a social enterprise. We are connected with farmers and farmer producer groups at the village level. So we, now the work is even more extensive than before. So through a not-for-profit that Rajiv also manages, they are working in the villages in drought-prone regions, specifically in Andhra Pradesh, in Anantapur, where we're working with almost 1,500 plus millet farmers. And it's their products that we are trying to bring to the market. How it all started, of course, Rajiv had so the co-founder, he had a background of working with millet farmers earlier. And so both of us, and of course, incidentally, is also my husband. So that's how we knew about millets in the first place, because he had done that work. We're both from a social development background. And so when we were expecting our daughter in late 2013, 2014, I was diagnosed with gestational diabetes. And at that point of time, so this is like, of course, diabetes that you get during pregnancy basically means that you have a tendency towards developing type 2 diabetes also later on in life. And so I got this, and very early on in the pregnancy, and the doctor said that it's okay. I mean, so, monitor your sugars for a little while, then we'll see how much medicine you need, etc. We both of us, we decided that, that was not a path we wanted to go down on. And this is 2013. Nobody knew about millets. There was no conversation virtually in the country. I mean, in the last 2 years, it has really, everybody's talking about it now. But at that point of time, there was no conversation. So for us, we had heard from the farmers, some of the people that we had worked with, that it helps. We started experimenting with it a little bit, and it had phenomenal results. So wheat or anything else that I consume versus millets that I consume, like whole grain millets, there was a huge difference. And I managed the entire duration on just walking and a combination of walking and a millet-based diet. So much to the surprise of all the doctors and the gynecologists and everybody who was working with me at that point of time, they were very surprised, because to get gestational diabetes very early, it sort of just progresses and people are taking insulin shots by the end and all of that. Of course, we were very careful with monitoring, but we managed it. And that's what changed things in a very big way for us, because we realized that this is something that does need to be talked about more. It needs to be brought to the market. And so, this is so 2014, 15, we worked with it for a while, we discussed things. 2016, we launched Millets for Health, where we decided that we needed to bring millets to the market. And of course, then also it has taken a life of its own. When we started, we were barely selling 30 kgs a month. So not even that, because there was also only people who just, knew us and they bought it, etc. So then we started doing a lot of awareness, education. I started doing cooking demonstrations. And so the cooking demonstrations and teaching people how to cook with millets sort of took a life of its own, because we realized it was very important to feed millets to people. They needed to understand it, because it was a very alien concept. Although millets are something that are such a huge part of our, of India and our palate. And we have this map from 1960s of Agricultural Survey of India, where 70% of the country was growing millets and eating millets. And just what, 20, 30 years later, they had completely gone out of circulation. So people needed to be taught, refamiliarized with millets. It needed to be reintroduced in people's diets, and we had a hard time in the beginning. So we found that the easiest way to do it, I mean, you can tell people that something is healthy, but unless they eat it and they like it, they are not going to, it's not going to change behaviors in any way. So we started cooking. We started going to melas and farmers markets and, different events and a lot of places where we just fed people millets. And it was, those results were fabulous. And that's where we started seeing sustained change in eating habits, people coming back to eat it. And then, of course, along with that, when you talk about the health benefits, then that definitely, it sits well with everybody, because it's something that it's not alien. They see that they can cook it any way they like, and it also is very healthy. So that's how, and of course, the response over the years has just grown. The last 2 years, we've just really seen millets being talked about just about everywhere. So I think in India, it's really, really taking off, the millet movement. There's still a long way to go. It's still, it's not like wheat and rice. So, yeah, please,
Yes.
if you have any questions.
Yes. So I had one question, Pallavi,
Yeah.
that, millets, would millet be a kind of a balanced diet to give nutrition with taste, and also suitable for the lifestyle nowadays, because people have sedentary lifestyle and they don't have time. Most of the people are working. Millet might take a lot of time to cook. Which millets to choose? Can you give some thoughts on that?
Absolutely. So millets do have, so when we talked about the balanced diet, what I like to talk about is a concept of nutrition diversity or diet diversity. The more diverse our diet is, the more diverse the nutrients that we get from the diet. So over the years, we've become a nation that eats only two things, wheat and rice, and we eat excessive amounts of that. With millets, with different sort of grains, which just the kind of rich, diverse grain heritage that we have had. If we take the step to include more diverse grains in our diet, our platter automatically becomes diversified and we get a balanced diet. So millets are rich in several things. So 2-3 basic things about millets. They are gluten-free. And as a nation, we are not, in fact, not a nation, at least when I talk about Southeast Asia, this particular area, we are not a nation that was, eating a very heavy, gluten-heavy diet to begin with. We used to eat grains which are more coarse and gluten-free, and that used to form a large part of our platter many years ago. Wheat and rice, of course, were once in a while food, and we used to consume those two. Those were consumed in regions where they grew. But remember, I told you 70% of the country was growing millets. So millets, maize, different sort of grains that we include in our diet. That basically brings diversity to the platter. So gluten, then all millets are alkaline. In fact, wheat and rice are they're acidic in nature. Millets are alkaline in nature. So all the 8-9 different types of millets that are commercially available now, they are all alkaline. And the concept of complex carbohydrates that we were talking about, millets are extremely high in fiber. They are carbs. A lot of people ask me, are they carbs? So how can they be good for us? They are complex carbs. So if we compare them to wheat and rice, there's a huge difference in the amount of fiber that we get, per 100 grams as compared to millet. So it's like why we call them as superfoods, or we are calling them as superfoods now. It's that a smaller amount of the same, if you compare a portion of rice and a portion of millet, a smaller amount gives you more nutrition, more fiber, and more energy to go for longer. Now, when we are talking about a sedentary lifestyle, there is also a misconception where people think that they may not be able to digest millet, that you need to work out more to be able to digest it. That's also a sort of a misnomer. When we are consuming millets, we do need to take into account the quantity that we are eating, because it's high in fiber. So you cannot consume the same amount of rice. So often people make that mistake when they switch over to a millet-based diet, is that they start consuming the same amount. And of course, you're not going to be able to digest if you eat the same amount, because you're not supposed to eat the same amount of millet as you're eating of rice. But in fact, they are, so if you're eating a smaller quantity, I mean, you can almost put it to half. So if you're eating this much rice, you eat this much millet. And when we're talking about lifestyle, they are in fact easier to digest because they are alkaline. They give you more energy for a longer period of time because they digest, they're complex carbs, they break down slowly. So if for anyone with diabetes, the sugars will not spike. If you need energy for a longer period and you've consumed a millet-based diet, you'll not be hungry in between meals. So you will have the energy to go for longer. If you're typically, in the afternoon after eating or after a meal, people are typically sleepy. If you eat millets at that time, you will find that effect, it doesn't happen. And of course, the fiber and just the content of millets, it helps in weight loss, diabetes management, prevention and management of lifestyle disorders. So in fact, they're extremely well suited for a modern lifestyle. We just need to know how to consume it, what quantities to consume. And of course, with some practice, we'll be able to figure out which millets to pair with what and what to cook, which dishes is what suitable for. All of that is, of course, it's a journey because we've taken a long time to forget it. I think there was 1 or 2 generations entirely in between where, I didn't learn cooking millets from my parents. And they had eaten it. My father has eaten it in his childhood. Even now, when I talk about it, he comes up with these anecdotes about millets from the past. But we were never taught these anecdotes, or we never heard of them when we were growing up. Now he talks about it because we're working on it. So there's a lot of information loss. We've taken a long time to unlearn it. Now it will take some time to relearn it, but it's not difficult. They are extremely versatile and very easy to cook with.
Okay, Pallavi. So now I think time is for you to show us one recipe. And while showing recipe, if you want, you can show us some millets to everybody of what you have. And we could just enjoy your recipe. What exactly are you intending to cook? Can you tell us?
I am going to do a millet beetroot kebab.
Okay.
So that's what I'm
millet
going to show you.
Beetroot kebab. Oh my God.
Yeah. So so it's a snack, and it can, you can just, you can also have it as a main meal because it's quite nutritious, and, it has a carb and it has the veggies. In place of beetroot, you can add other things as well. So what the millet, I've already pre-cooked the millet. The millet I've used today for this it's brown top millet. So brown top is a millet that has in recent years, it has again gained a lot of ground. It's very high in fiber. Predominantly, it's from a region it's from the Karnataka, Andhra belt. It's grown more there. And so I've already pre-cooked it. To cook millets, a vessel like this works best. We need to pre-soak the millets for at least a few hours. And if it's hot, then, 1 or 2 hours of soaking is enough. Wash the millet. I'll show you what the millet looks like, what the grain looks like. So this is brown top millet. This is what it looks like. So millets also, while I'm cooking, I'll talk about the technicality. They can be, put into 2 categories: major millets and minor millets. When we're talking about millets in India, major millets are okay. I'll come back to that. First, let me just get started on the cooking. So I have cooked this, and so I've soaked it in water for 2 hours. It's very hot in Delhi right now, so you don't need a lot of soaking. So I washed it well and soaked it in water for 2 hours. And then I cooked it with 3 times water. And so this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like. So, you can, if you cook this like plain rice or plain millet rice, you can have it with any sort of curry. You can toss it in a salad. You can just do anything with it. So this is the base millet that we've made, and it's quite, if you look at it, it's quite fluffy, right? So you can just, stir fry it with some vegetables. You can make any sort of rice-based dish from it if you want to sort of fry it again, toss it in your salad, etc. So there's lots that you can do with it. What we're doing now is making the kebab. So I cook this with 3 times water. Now, you can add any vegetables in this kebab. What I am doing is I have some boiled potatoes, I have grated beetroot, and I'm going to mix this. We can also make this with boiled yams, suran, what we call in the northern part of the country. So we can make it with that also. We can make it with raw bananas. So you have, so if you want to avoid the potato, you can make it with raw boiled bananas. And, you can just about substitute any vegetable in this. So I'm going to add the cooked millet to the potatoes.
Can we see it a little better, the bowl? Yes.
No. Okay. And then I'm adding the beetroot to it. This is grated beetroot. I cooked the millet just before the session started, but it's cooled down a little bit. So it won't mash exactly the way it should be mashed. If one of the ingredients is slightly warm or hot, then it mashes really well together, and it won't be grainy at all. So but now because it's cooled down, it'll be a bit grainy, but the eventual texture that we're looking for shouldn't be very grainy. Because if you're trying to disguise the millet for any family member and you want to feed it to them, then you can use hot millet. So I'm adding roasted cumin powder to this, jeera, some pink salt, and some roasted dhania powder or coriander powder. This. You can add green chilies as per your taste. And I have some ginger. If you don't like ginger, so I've grated this, but if you don't like the taste of it, you can also make it into a paste and add it. Just going to mash this all together. And so the millet has the, the carb, the starch bit, and it'll just bind very easily. You don't need to add any sort of binders to this. So now while I'm mashing this, I'll go back to the theory of millets that I was discussing earlier. So millets can be categorized into 2 major and minor millets. 3 of the major millets, basically they were also known as that because the major millets were grown more. The minor millets were grown less, and there's also a size difference. There are some differences in that sense. So the major millets are pearl millet, or popularly known as bajra, sorghum, which is jwar, and finger millet, which is madua or ragi. These 3 are called major millets. These 3, they don't need to be dehulled before cooking. So they can be, but they are mostly used as flours or dalia. They can be directly ground into atta. They can be sprouted. So they're used as whole grains. So these are sort of naked grains. They can be used directly. The minor millets, they are like paddy rice. So they need to be dehulled. So I'll show you a little later some millet with the skin and millet without the skin. So how it looks. So all the minor millets, there are 6 types. Actually, there are more than 200 plus varieties, and more are still being discovered in the country. The tribals have kept a lot of them alive, but there are about 9 which are commercially there in India. And so the 6 minor millets are foxtail millet, kodo millet, proso millet, which is popularly available. I think it will be available in Europe also. I'll show you proso. I think most of what is sold outside is proso. So foxtail, kodo, proso, little millet, barnyard millet, and brown top millet. So these are the 6 millets that are the minor millets. They can be they can be cooked like rice, or they can be mashed like this. You can cook it. So the way I showed you, they can be cooked just like plain rice, and they can be used in many recipes. So our mash is ready, and I'm just going to shape some kebabs out of this. So you can even, sometimes I make long ones and make them like a seek kebab, put it in a long stick, and it tastes quite nice. If we can add more or less beetroot to it, other vegetables, it tastes very good. It's a great snack. It's a full meal in itself as well, because it has the carbs, it can have veggies, whatever you want, you can just add to this. So now I'm just going to quickly put the pan. So this is a lovely cast iron pan. I'm just going to brush some oil on it. We don't need to use a lot, so we don't need to deep fry this or anything. Just going to grease with some oil. Wait for it to heat up, and I'm going to start placing these, and they'll get cooked. So Tanuja, any questions you have? Anything you want to ask?
No, I think I am quite mesmerized by the very simple recipe, and I'm surely going to try this.
Yes, and it, you don't need to add any binders to this. Works quite well. And if it was hot, then it would have matched even better. Okay, so this is done. I even make this sometimes as for burgers. We can use this as the the patty inside the burger. It can be used for that.
Because the millet has been boiled and beetroot is anyways grated and fresh. So basically it is easy to cook and quick to eat.
Absolutely. The vegetables are already cooked. Beetroot is, I mean, we can have it just grated. It doesn't really need to be boiled. So you can,
if you look at, for example, if people want to get these, I mean, for example, this millet, if it is not available in Hungary, can they use the other types of millets which are available here?
Absolutely. So the important thing to remember is the differentiation between the major and the minor millets. So the major millets, sorghum, pearl millet, finger millet, they cannot be cooked like rice. So a lot of times, many people, they get these and then they try to cook it, and then they call me and tell me that it's tasting like straw. And then I, of course, ask them which millet did you cook. and eventually it's all those three. So if you what you can get, this is Proso millet. This is what's mostly available in Europe and US.
Correct. Yes. This is available in Hungary.
So this is so this you can cook, but Proso takes a lot of water and longer to cook. So soaking would be great. Proso is very high in protein. So it is 12.5 grams of protein per 100 grams. So it's again protein-rich millet, and you can it will require about 3.5 times water to cook the way I cooked it, and you need to pre-soak it as well. So cook it like rice. And Proso has a very creamy texture, so I like to use it for South Indian recipes like curd rice, etc. as well. It tastes very nice. If you can pre-cook some of the Proso and use it in a dessert, it makes for a very nice kheer, very creamy kheer.
So now we are looking forward to seeing the final product. Please don't make us wait for long.
Absolutely. So our brand is called Millets for Health, and you can find the page on Facebook. We've been doing a lot of work, not just on bringing millets to the urban rich, but so through the NGO that we work with, we also do programs on how to get the urban poor, and in fact to include millets in their diet. So we are doing a lot of interesting programs and recipes with them as well. We find good cooking is at the heart of convincing anyone to eat healthy. So this is, it's still not entirely cooked. You can make it a little more brown. I'll just show you. So this can be made browner.
So is it okay to sprinkle a little bit of olive oil to make it more crispy and golden?
No, it'll become, so if you, because maybe we are in a little bit of a hurry, if we leave it for 5 minutes more, it'll become very crispy and golden. You don't need anything. So but I did brush some oil on top, and it'll become extremely crispy, and you can, serve it with your chutney of choice. So I have a green chutney here, made with mangoes and coriander leaves.
That looks very nice.
So this is the millet recipe. So like I said, they're not difficult to cook at all. They are extremely easy to cook. They are very, very versatile. Any sort of cuisine, they lend themselves very easily to any type of cuisine. And that's what we have been working towards, working with. We've been trying to convince people for the past many years that how to consume millets, because that was, I think, the biggest hurdle. People do get convinced about the health benefits, but oftentimes the hurdle they face is the cooking. So, I do cooking workshops and, all these sessions. So I have like these regular classes as well that almost every month. Only last 2 months I haven't done them, but we do them like monthly, weekly workshop series. So apart from selling the millets, of course, we are also doing a lot of education and awareness around it.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. In fact, it is always very nice to know about the different types of millets, because I remember when we were kids, we used to have lots of millet diet in our different kind of snacks and meals. And I remember when we used to go to the villages, of course, we were exposed to this. Lately, of course, there are certain millets which are connected in India with some religious practices, like religious, festivals. So during those times, it is mandatory to cook certain breads out of it, or some sweet dishes out of it. So in a way, I would say not lot of, but maybe 40-50% of Indians are exposed to some of these healthy millets. But thank you for giving a very modern and a very quick recipe, which was vegan, which was vegetarian, which looked very attractive. Of course, it's nearly dinner time here also, and I'm sure it's pretty late there. So all of us, we are definitely going to whatever we are eating tonight, we will think that we are eating the millet cutlets. So sometimes I do that, you know, even if I'm eating a very simple food, I kind of connect with certain recipes. So thank you so much.
Just the point that you made earlier, in fact, it is the religious practices and traditions that have kept some of it alive. Otherwise, we would have completely forgotten about it.
Yes.
They have, and you know, our ancestors were pretty smart that they actually brought these foods and made them part of certain rituals and customs, which has actually played a big role in people consuming them, remembering them. And it's been kept alive because of these traditions. So I think it's pretty fantastic. Just one more thing, I wanted to show the difference between the seed and the grain. So this is the seed of proso millet. You can see how it's nice and shiny. And this is the millet in the rice form. So it's dehulled. See that the outer skin is removed before consumption. So the outer hull cannot be digested. And it's brought into the rice form. It's very important though to eat unpolished millets only. For anybody who's listening, don't eat any millets that are white in color, because then they are devoid of most of the goodness that they are promising to give you. So don't eat like white polished millets. They should be like this color. They should be this. Then there's like kodo, which is brown, green. So there's a whole spectrum of colors there. And for anyone who wants to know more, please.
I think it's a very interesting simultaneous conversation going on in the chat box. I could see that there were a lot of questions, and our experts were also continuously answering those questions. And it's a very good thing, because sometimes while different talks are going on, some important questions are missed, because in spite of all the experts being here who have an expertise on their subjects, the virtual programs do have a time limit. We can't help that. So this is one, of course, point. Second point is that I have received all the, nearly all the answers, not answers, I would say, choices of people where they have commented on the recipes. And I would like to, of course, announce that first. So I would just mention which recipe has been the most popular recipe. So amongst all the recipes, the recipe which was the most popular was the healthy breakfast made out of semolina and vegetables by Ipshita Laha. So I would like to congratulate Ipshita. I don't see her here, but she will know from the Facebook tomorrow, first thing in the morning. So Ipshita Laha, congratulations. You are the winner today. And the second recipe, which was really very popular with a lot of other guests also, I mean, the participants as well as other guests, and that was Energy Ladoos. This was by Mridula Dongre. She created this very interesting mixture of dry fruits and jaggery and all those things, and created this energy ladoos, which was I think liked by a lot of people. And there was one more recipe which has got a lot of likes, and that was easy roasted tofu curry, in spite of not being edited in that stylish video fashion. This is by Adel Hodonizki. So all the three winners, I must tell you that you have a lot of food vouchers from Hungary, by the way. You have a voucher from Adam Pataki for sweet dishes. You have voucher from, this is vegan restaurant in Székesfehérvár. I'm sorry, I might have pronounced it wrong. It's a very beautiful city in Hungary. There is a restaurant bistro which has opened. Zsuzsa Komiati has offered vouchers for meals for the winners there. So I'm going to, of course, give you those vouchers, announce those vouchers online, and the result will be announced online. But keep the recipes going. I think we have scope for more recipes, and I'm sure the guest can judge again, because there are people who had said that they are still wanting to send recipes, maybe till the yoga day on 21st of June. So thank you everybody for the recipes. And now if anybody has any quick questions, I will open it for the house just now. If anybody has any question, please, out of the guest also, if you need to ask anything from anybody else, please We have 5 minutes now before we wrap up the program today. Anybody who has any questions? There have been some question rounds in the chat box, but otherwise, if anybody has any question, please feel free to ask.
Ma'am, actually, I had one question regarding the millets portion. The thing is, the quantity of the millet that we should consume, because I tried to replace the rice with the quinoa and some other millets, but they don't feel as filling. But if you eat it as much as rice, it is too much, and you will realize it later. So is there any standard that you should eat half of the other grains you eat, or something like that? Is there any?
That's a great question, and it's very important when we are consuming millets to keep quantity in mind. It really depends on what your eating patterns are, which will determine what the quantity is. It depends on what your lifestyle is, which also determines the quantity. Say, for instance, you're somebody who likes to have like 3 meals a day. Then if you're having some millet, because a lot of people are sometimes nowadays entirely on a millet-based diet. So if you're having some millet in every meal, then you need to adjust the quantity accordingly. Now, if you're somebody who likes to have, say, 2 meals, or if you have a long day ahead of you, so you want to have 1 meal in the morning and 1 like in the evening, then you need a slightly more quantity so that it can get you through the day. So it really depends on what your lifestyle is, what your eating patterns are, etc. That being said, if you're consuming millets, it needs to be half the quantity. Start with half the quantity of millet as compared to white rice. That's definitely a thumb rule you should follow. And I think about 50 grams per person is per meal would be a good enough measure. Also, you can adjust it as per your need. The other thing I would say is that I do understand that because we are used to eating larger portions, it doesn't feel, psychologically, it doesn't feel as filling. Try to increase the other things in your platter. So if you're having, say, like a millet salad, then increase the quantity of the veggies that you're having along with the millet. So that increases your portion size without increasing the the quantity of the millet. If you're an Indian and if you're eating it with dal or any sort of curry, increase the vegetables, increase the dal, and don't increase the millet though. So then that will make your meal a little, the size maybe a little more satisfying. But do not increase the quantity of millet, because then a lot of people feel that it's not getting digested, or they're having indigestion because they're feeling full. But what's really happening is that you've eaten more than what was needed in that particular meal, and because it's a complex carb, it breaks down slowly. It takes time to digest. But it's not like it's doing any harm to your system. So if you're feeling that full, just skip the next meal and eat at the next meal. So the next day, your system will be clearer, it'll be better digested, all of that. So, it's not like it's bad for your digestion. In fact, it's great for your digestion because it's alkaline, because it's high fiber. It'll help your body cleanse very well. But just the quantity needs to be adjusted. And if at any time you find you've eaten more, then skip a meal. Don't eat carb at the next meal, or don't eat, just, skip that, and then you'll see automatically it'll become better.
That was really helpful. Yeah, just one more. The glycemic index of millets, they usually, especially jowar, it usually comes near rice, almost like rice and wheat kind. So how is it very helpful to diabetics when compared to?
So with millets, it's not so much about the glycemic index as it is about a concept called glycemic load, which is the quantity of fiber to the carb, and that is very different. Now, jowar, for instance, jowar doesn't have as high fiber as the minor. So the major millets will not be as high in fiber content as will the minor millets. So the rice millets, the 6 minor millets, they are much higher in fiber content. Jowar or sorghum is not that high in fiber, but still, if you compare it to wheat, or if you compare it to polished paddy white rice, the fiber content is higher, and it is, you eat a jawar roti and you will see the impact can be felt on you, on somebody who is a diabetic, on somebody who wants to lose weight. So if you eat that jawar roti, you will know, if you're monitoring your sugars, you will know it has an impact. So it is basically, it's the concept of glycemic load, which is the fiber to carb ratio, which is helpful.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks.
Any other question for anybody? So now I will just end the, of course, program, this webinar, by showing the recipe. It's not exactly recipe, but yes, some shots which have been, some pictures which have been edited in a recipe of the sample that Adam Pataki has sent. So people who are the winners, they can just take a glimpse, and when they go to the I don't remember the name of the shop, but it is very, very well known here in Hungary. When you go there, you will find that Adam has also excelled in using fresh ingredients for all the sweet dishes. So he likes to use mangoes, he likes to use nuts, he likes to use fresh fruits, and that's how he creates healthy sweet dishes. So he has a surprise for you. So let me share his video, and then after that, we will wrap up this webinar. Just bear with me for a second.
You know, I really miss the Hungarian pastry.
ओवरफ्लो होने के बाद उसके जिससे धुली और काली नदी का जल स्तर अचानक बढ़ गया.
Just a second, I think.
Yeah. So it was really
a glimpse of some Indian news also. So now I would just tell the winners that this is what Adam Pataki has offered for you. Of course, this was just a small glimpse. So very soon you will get all the vouchers, and keep the recipes coming. We will probably have more winners in the next few days. And now I will take this opportunity to first of all thank the guests from India, Pallavi and Anuti. Both of you took out some time, and it's pretty late now. I'm sure it is nearly 10:30 or quarter to 11 there in India.
11.
It's 11 p.m. there. So time to have a rest. Thank you so much, Balash Varga, for taking out time and sharing those very, very healthy and interesting and very, very relevant tips. And of course, Dr. Asmita Vele from, again, India, who is a specialist in Ayurveda. We must have some special individual sessions with all of you as well. So in the coming months, I must tell you that we are celebrating the India at 75 celebrations, which means that India is celebrating its 75th, Independence Day next year. So we are doing lots of elements around it. So we must have some interesting sessions by our experts. In the coming months, I will definitely connect with you again. We will have more audiences then, because today, if you know, I think football match is also going on. so it is a very, very busy day today. Tomorrow and day after, we are celebrating International Day of Yoga. Tomorrow, we are celebrating at Athletic Center in Margaret Island. I invite Balazs and I invite all the people from Hungary for the main International Day of Yoga event tomorrow. 21st, we are doing another event at the iconic Fisherman Bastion, which is again a very, very important place. Both the days 10 a.m. So all of you are invited. The Indians, please see our International Day of Yoga videos. And all of you, please take care, have a rest, and thank you so much for coming for this webinar on the occasion of International Day of Yoga. Namaste. Thank you so much.
Namaste and
Namaste.
thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All these informations. Thank you.
Nice to meet you. Bye bye.